All right, we're going to get started. I know that we've got some folks that need to get on the road at some point, hopefully beat some traffic, including myself. So we're going to get rolling. Kendall, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Brian Yanta. Dave Wegman.
Present.
Thank you. Derek Bays.
Here.
Thank you. Doris Cooksey. Debbie Reed.
Here.
Thank you. Neffy Garza.
Present.
Thank you. Kara Tackett.
Present.
Thank you. Jeff Carroll.
Here.
Thank you. Robert Reyna.
Here.
Thank you. John Beasley. Suzanne Scott.
Here.
Thank you. Jose Reyes. Dave Mock.
Here.
Thank you. Donovan Burton.
Here by video conference.
Thanks, Donovan. All right. Marty Kelly.
Here.
Thanks, Marty. James Blount. Jamie McCool.
Here.
Thank you. Jared Bowen. Chris Robles.
Here.
Thank you. Anita Machiavello.
Here.
Hey, Anita, thank you. All right, Chair, we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Kendall. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir, no one has signed up to speak.
All right. Next item is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review? Any comments? If not, could I get a motion and a second?
Dave Wagon move to approve. Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Neffy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Next item is communications from Water Development Board. Anita, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to mention that we are working on several documents and guidance for the second cycle as well as for the amended regional flood plan submission. As you're all aware, we sent out our submittal guidance documents last week. Please let me know if you need that. We're also working on sending out another newsletter in the next couple of weeks that will provide more information about what the transition into second cycle will look like. And I am also working on developing an agenda for a conference call as well that will give everyone a chance to look at our newsletter and then come with any additional questions they may have. And
Okay.
that's all I have right now.
Cool. Thank you, Anita. Does anybody have any questions or info for Anita or the Water Development Board? All right. Moving on, Chair Report, item 5. I think the main item is we got notice that the Water Development Board accepted our final regional flood plan. So major step. We continue to make progress. So thank you to the consultant team and all the members that have been participating. Item number 6 is subcommittee updates. The only subcommittee that met was the technical committee, and that was to review the last projects in task 12 and then the chapter 12 memo, which is everything that's the meat of what we're talking about today. So we no need to discuss because Ron and team are going to do it. So next item is item number 7. Before we get into the chapter 12 items, we're going to talk about discussion and appropriate action regarding an amendment to Region 12 bylaws, detailing terms of membership for the voting members. This is an opportunity to continue the discussion from last month on voting membership. We're not expecting any action today. There wasn't a consensus, but we're teeing it up again to see if there were any further thoughts. And Kendall, did you have anything you wanted to add on this?
Yes, sir. So just a reminder from what we saw last month, voting membership for those initially appointed by the Texas Water Development Board in 2020, your terms expire July of this year. At our June meeting, we will be drawing lots per the bylaws for either a 2-year or a 5-year extension, because it is in the bylaws that the membership term is 5 years. So that's when we're going to stagger those originally appointed terms for future, so that we're never really turning over a majority of the board at one time. So there was just discussion, a couple of questions last time about the terms of office. So we wanted to bring this back up in case there were any additional questions. And if you have any of those at the time, this is the bylaws. It's also in your agenda packet. This is just the relevant blurb for us to look at here.
Yeah, and this is where last time Kendall passed out the list of who's up when. There we go. It's like reading minds, Kendall. So those in red will be the ones that are drawing lots in June.
Yes, sir. I promise I'll try to make it fun.
So the results of that, so when you draw the lot, you're going to determine whether you go up for election for, explain that to me again. You're going to draw the lots.
Mhm.
Let's say you draw Dave or nephew. What does that mean when you draw that lot?
We will have to talk about the format in terms of how the lots are actually drawn, but essentially there will be 2-year terms and 5-year terms. And so we will figure out the format of the draw, but essentially because the names in red here, the terms expire in 2023. Some will have terms that then will expire in 2025, and the others will expire at the end of the cycle in 28. But we have not formalized a format for.
She's absolutely right. We haven't formalized a format. I was thinking it's almost like draw out of a hat, and there's X number of pieces of paper, and there's either a 5 or a 2 on the piece of paper, and you reach in and whatever you grab is what your term is. Something like that.
Yes, that's what I was visualizing as well. We do have 8 that will be drawing, so it'll be even 4 and 4 split.
Okay, so Kendall, just you're assuming at this point, or maybe you've already asked, that everybody in red wants to continue to serve.
We have mentioned, I think last month and a couple times in individual conversations before then, nobody has at this point notified the sponsor that they're planning to not continue into cycle 2. We do ask, this would be a great time if you are not planning on moving into cycle 2 before you draw those lots to announce so. And we had discussed there's going to be an agenda item on the June agenda that would authorize the sponsor to solicit for any vacancies that are announced between the time of action and through August. So that way we can put out in September, and then the first meeting, conceptually with 2 asterisks, Anita, would be in October. And at that October meeting, we would hopefully be able to see any of those vacancies. So we start with a full planning group, but nobody has announced at this time if they're planning on not to continue.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions on this item, or what it's going to look like as we go forward, with June being the big one? And again, I'll stress, if somebody is not interested in continuing to serve, obviously first we appreciate the time and the interest that you've done. If you are not interested in keep going, please let us know, because it will just facilitate getting the replacement process, so that we are teed up for the second round starting in the fall with a full slate to the best of our abilities.
And I understand that things may change between May and June and closer to the beginning of the cycle. So that's why we wanted to make sure that the language of the motion next month would be for anybody that tells us basically over the summer that they're going to be not returning for the second cycle.
Chair, should we provide a deadline on when they should let us know so that we could have plenty of time to advertise and so forth, or is that the deadline now?
I'm a little hesitant to put a deadline, just because if there are, there's that, and then there's just if somebody's personal circumstances change, medical or whatever that might come up. I wouldn't want to get that to get in the way. So I think we strongly encourage, if you're not going to continue, to please let us know. All right. If no further discussion, we'll move on to item 8, which is discussion and appropriate action regarding amendment detailing terms of office for the elected officers and members at large of the executive committee. So it's the same setup as last month with the bylaw language. We're going to have a recommendation that's going to be on the slides. So Kendall, would you summarize that for everybody, please?
Absolutely. So we have the same language that we went through last time in terms of the 3 sections of the bylaws that detail officer terms, and then also the terms for the 2 at-large members of executive committee. So I have those copied here again, and they're in your agenda packets highlighted. The recommendation that I'm putting forward for discussion today is that we have elections at the beginning of every cycle and the subsequent 2 years. In terms of implementation of that, for example, cycle 2, we would have elections in the fall of 2023, and then elections in 25, 27, and then at 28, the cycle ends. So in general, the terms of office would be 2 years. That final term would probably be 1 year, maybe 1.5 years. But the bylaw language that we have dictating that elections have to be every 2 years would then supersede the term limit and just require that we do it again at the beginning of the cycle. So that's just my recommendation out there for discussion, because a couple ideas were thrown around last time. So I just wanted to put something in writing based off of how discussion was going.
Yeah, we're not committed to this. I like this personally. I think it flows well. It gives, enough continuity between the cycles, and then, whatever choices the group wants to make, it starts anew with that cycle. And 2 years feels about right to get through, enough meat of the process. But please, if you have thoughts, we would like to take action on this today, but we're open to whatever the group thinks.
Quick question. How do you think it would work if, and it may not be a problem, it may not, but I'm just thinking if we're doing voting membership and we have the option of a 5-year cycle, and then this is a 2-year, I mean, I'd hate for us to be in a situation where, oh, wait a second, I still have 2 more years as an officer, but my election, do you think that would be an issue or not? Maybe I'm just thinking too much.
I mean, it could be. I think, when we were talking last month, it was just hard to, I think we're going to end up with the potential is there to end up with an awkward situation almost no matter what, because of the 5-year terms, unless you go to 1-year terms. And I feel that's probably too short. So to me, the risk is worth that weird possibility that you just described is worth the trade-off of having the continuity of someone for 2 years.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because I think a 2-year cycle as officers, I think would make a lot of sense, especially since, whether it's the county or the river authority or the city or whatever that's doing master planning or planning effort, I think a 2-year, I think would, at minimum, I think works well. So I think you're right with the risk.
No, thank you, Neffy. Other thoughts? Folks online, we can't see you on the screen right now, but please speak up if you've got some thoughts.
This is Donovan. Just a quick question. Can you remind me again, Kendall, the Region L Executive Committee, those are 1 year?
Yes, sir. That's the first meeting of every year. They re-elect their executive committee. And that's where the language came from for this first cycle for flood planning.
Hey, it's Kara. I'll jump in. I think, we had talked about this at some previous meetings, never really settling on it. I think the fact that the flood plan is so new, we're not in a groove the way water is with knowing what updates mean, able to accomplish things in 1 year term, 1 year cycles, or not having that, doing anything shorter than 2 years. Who knows if we'll even have many meetings in 1 year, or maybe just one. It seems too much just kind of process to keep it any shorter than 2 for folks. And there is no, as Derek said, there's no easy number to divide that 5 into pieces equally. So 2 seems as good as 3, but 2 seems to make sense for those that really are looking for a shorter time, or that feel like there needs to be an end to that. But 1, I think in our previous discussions, I know in my opinion, 1 year is just way too short. And to even have to be electing officers or new folks on an annual basis is too frequent this early in the flood planning process as an overall.
Thanks, Kara. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, I'd like to ask for a motion to authorize the planning group sponsor to amend the bylaws in accordance with the direction that we just discussed today. If somebody's willing to do a motion in a second.
And I just want somebody to specifically say that it was according to this recommendation. So that way I have that too.
All right. So Neffy motioned. Do we have a second?
I motion to authorize planning group sponsors to amend the bylaws in accordance with the direction provided today by the planning group.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Still like 2.5 years.
All the engineers in the room thought of the 2.5 as well. All right, thanks, y'all. I think that's a good step forward. And I also, if at some point, it's relatively easy to amend our bylaws, fortunately. And so if the group gets down the road in a year or two and it's like, you know what, this is not working, or we see how the cycle is playing out, the group can make a change fairly easily too. All right, moving on to item number 9. Which is presentation appropriate action to approve chapter 12. So our technical consultant team been hard at work, and we'll turn it over to them to discuss what we did at the technical subcommittee and then where we're going now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you today, at our last meeting, we talked about projects. We had brought a few projects. We've exhausted that list of projects, and we've brought a full list of all of the FMEs, FMPs that we're going to recommend. Plus, we've also brought a memo that summarizes the methodologies and procedures to develop those, to advance those from FMEs to FMPs, what we did for each. And then we're also the additional projects that we collected from certain entities, and those are documented. We put those, when we put those in a table very similar to how we did in the past, and those were given to us for information that was directly given to us by different entities for that. So as you can see on the slide, as a total, as for task 12, we evaluated many more, but we've developed 22 FMPs, 14 FMEs, and then we collected from different entities such as DUCET was doing the the Water Development Board fifth funded projects. The city of Castroville provided some. We got additional projects from the city of San Antonio. So we collected additional 23 FMPs and 12 FMEs. So in all, we are increasing the number of projects with the amended plan by 45. So that's a pretty cool number to get to. So we added 45 new projects from when the final plan would be through this amendment, and 26 FMEs. So East,
So
the,
we add those together, so the total number of FMPs is the 22 plus the 23?
yes, ma'am. And the developed was the ones that we converted, Suzanne, from FMEs to FMPs. Some of them remained FMEs, and then while we were analyzing, we said, oh, maybe here's another problem area that we found. So essentially, there's and then the ones that were collected were provided, and we provided very similar to the process we did the first time, where they provided us all of the information, and we put that into, we made sure they had all the information, and we put that into the plan. So again, 45 total FMPs and 26 FMEs. Just wanted to break that down to make sure that you knew that as part of Task 12, we were scoped to develop FMPs, and we met that plus the additional that we collected and created some FMEs. Before you is the memo with all of the procedures that we went through, kind of documenting the cost estimates, the BCA analysis, downstream impact analysis, and other things that went into that. This memo will be an appendices along with all of the packets to the amended plan. And so that's what you'll see. That's what's in there. And then there's a table in your packet after the memo, gives a little bit more detail on the FMPs and FMEs that were developed. And then the last couple of pages is the table that was of the ones that were collected. It's the table that's actually in the plan and how we submitted those previously. So all of the information is in front of you. A lot of information. We've talked a lot. For the ones that we collected, that we went through the same process we did on all the others, and they have a sponsor. The sponsors looked at them. That's the information they gave us. That's what they're comfortable going forward with. The ones we've developed, we've talked to all the sponsors, and they're willing to support that. We had a few FMPs from the technical committee meetings that example was with the city of San Antonio, and we've refined that list. They took a couple off that with the ones that we had talked about.
Roosevelt and Almost Creek at Longview. Do you need me to say those again for the record?
Yeah.
Airport Tributary, San Antonio River at Roosevelt, and Almost Creek at Longview.
A couple of those, Debbie, were the ones that were in the Sarah's original master plan that we kind of lumped in there, and the city said, no, we have other things going on, or we've looked at that, or for whatever reason.
So there were 3 others that were removed prior by the city of San Antonio because they were no longer necessary. The floodplains had changed and they were no longer flooding the number of homes that were in the original master plan. So Almost Creek Trib, you're gonna test my memory here, San Antonio at Center Street and Huebner Creek flood barrier were removed.
And the airport tributary was removed because
the city told us to remove it.
I think that one was more that they were considering like the buyouts instead of.
And we can't change that to a buyout because we had considered that during the discussions, right?
We were asked to remove that.
Yeah, I mean, Robert from the city is on. Robert, if you want to comment on that in particular, but the consensus has been the sponsor needs to support it. So, but Robert, do you have anything to comment on the airport tributary and why it came out?
There were several projects, I think, that we were asking to remove, and all of them had to do with elevating the structures. One of them had a commercial building that they wanted us to abandon the first floor of being used. So we were not involved was sort of the development of these projects, and so we didn't feel comfortable moving forward as is. I think there has to be some more discussions, investigations, and exactly maybe even some public buy-in as far as like would they be able to do this? How do we elevate structures while they're there? Or we're buying them out first and then elevating them and then putting people back in? So there was a lot of questions that we had. So as is, we didn't feel comfortable moving forward with it.
Chair, I have a question. It's really impressive the amount of work that you guys have done, and I see the dedication and hard work that you guys have put into it. But a quick question for you, Ron. You know, as we've had opportunities to speak to elected officials or other folks that are interested in this committee, it's always good to have kind of an elevator speech that says, hey, you know, this is what we're doing. And I've always kind of found myself in a situation where I'd like to know how many structures, if we implemented all of this, including the additional 45 projects that you just added, how many structures would be reclaiming from the floodplain? How much floodplain would be reduced? I think those statistics are important, especially as we're trying to sell this committee and the work that's going on, that if we implement even half of what we're saying, which is, I know is very aggressive, but if we did, we would be removing blank number of structures out of the floodplain. I think that's information is important for us to have, to be able to, in this elevator speech, if you will, talking about this committee and the work that we're doing, that we can easily have access to that. Because I think it's things like that will really help us and bring a little more awareness of what we're doing, and hopefully get some other communities to participate.
Yeah, Nephi, that's a great comment. You know, and I think that's the intent of the geodatabase, right? We're updating this geodatabase, and once we get in there, that's exactly what the Water Development Board is doing, right? That's how they're presenting it. I'm sure to the legislature is, hey, you know, we're looking for this many billions of dollars. That way we can do this many projects. And oh, if we do that, we will remove this many structures, this many miles of road, this many, all of that. And we will be able to do that on our level whenever that all gets, you know, from the Region 12 and look at. And that's something we could, you know, come up with. It wasn't a requirement as part of this, and wasn't something, but yes, that is definitely something, that is the intent of the geodatabase and why we're doing it in that nature.
Because I do know that projects that may have been submitted by the River Authority or the county, they've accounted for that. I mean, that's ultimately why, the fundamental reason why they developed that project. So I would think we could be able to quickly come up with some of that information, whether it's miles of road or whatever. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I hope that we could be able to get to that point soon, and even in this micro scale that we're looking, certainly in the state for sure, but in our watershed, at least have some of those statistics ready to go.
Yeah. I just caution at how, you know, you understand it, Nephi. We're not going to say, oh, we guarantee you, you know, we have to be careful in how we state that number. And because what we'd like to see happen and what really comes as part of the legislative funding, we don't know what that's going to look like yet, and how they're going to rank the projects. But I think we can formulate that. You know, we can say if we removed everything, if we remove, you know, because there's key projects like Concepcion moves the needle on that number really big, right? And so there's key projects where you could say, you know, we could do 3 or 4 key projects and remove this. And so you know, it's statistics. We can make it look kind of, we can skew it because of some key projects. So agree, we will have the ability to do that. We just need to be careful in the messaging.
Yeah, but I think we get that. I mean, there's also just a messaging and a selling point, if you will, that, hey, our plan did X and removed, you know, plans to remove, so many low water crossings, because I think, you know, because you're right, we're all answerable to different people, different elected officials or boards or whoever it may be, or the public in general. And I think we need to tell that story. Yeah, there's always going to be an asterisk of, you know, things change. It depends on funding. You know, we've all been in that world. But I think as soon as we can get that type of information, and actually, I think there's hopefully, you know, come June, July-ish, you know, fairly soon, there'd be some sort of press release that goes out, from the River Authority on behalf of Region 12, saying all these different things, so we need it tomorrow. So we'll be happy to.
Well, the one thing
Get
I
that.
will note, Chapter 6 does have that information for all of it, right? So we can say of the FMPs, which however many we're up to now, I don't exactly remember the number, but of all the FMPs, we remove this many structures, this many acres of floodplain, remove this money from agriculture, from roadway, all of that. So we can say it for the total, but
Including the recent ads.
it will be, right, as
Yeah.
part of the
Yes.
amendment, that
Yep.
will be in there. So we'll have the total, the total cost of the projects. If we spend, I think that's the caveat. If we were able to spend this many billions, we could potentially remove this much. So
So we've had information like that available, especially with the final plan, and it will be amended to reflect Task 12's progress. So
Quick
we'll
que-
have that.
So the number that Neffy's talking about in the summary will you be able to take those straight from the quad sheets? Will they be the same? So if somebody went through and added up all the numbers in the quad sheets, that would be the information.
for 22 of them, but we don't have quad sheets for everything.
But
Right, so-
eventually we will, right?
No, we won't have quad sheets for the ones that were added by, these were ones, the reason we have quad sheets for these 22 and the ones developed is because we took ownership of them as getting them is to say, we're the reason, this planning group is the reason why all of the Texas Water Development Board information is there. So this planning group is what developed these projects and FMEs or advanced these FMEs. The rest were provided by others. So the quad sheets would have that information on there, but the geodatabase that is available, we can filter it for FMEs, FMPs, and pull, because we have to go in there and populate the number of homes removed, the number of miles of road removed, and all of that. So exactly what Neffy's talking about, you can play with the numbers and pick and choose projects, but yeah, we'll have that.
And on the geodatabase, that number will be for every project, and you just do
Yes.
it. Understand better. Thank you.
Yes, and those numbers will be in the narrative of the plan as well, so that they're easily accessible. I believe they're even in the executive summary, but they're definitely in a chapter.
Again, for the FMPs.
Thanks, Ron. Next, what are you hitting us up with next?
Really, that's all we had. It's now we're just looking for an approval of our Task 12. This is this is going to be this isn't an approval of the amended plan. This is just getting the approval on essentially adding these FMEs and FMPs to the plan, the amended plan as an appendice.
Yes, and consistent with what we've done in the past, the recommended motion is to approve Chapter 12 as it was presented today, while allowing for non-substantive changes by Ron and the technical consultant team.
So are there any thoughts or comments? And, if you have a chance to look at this, I know the materials were sent out. Any comments or concerns or questions?
Make a motion to approve Chapter 12 and allow the technical consultants to make any non-substantive changes and appropriate edits.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Debbie Reed, second.
Thank you, Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Motion passes. So get to work.
Thank you very much to the planning group. And I guess as a follow-up, the next meeting, we will be providing you the amended plan. The amended plan, we received direction as Anita has mentioned, and it will be a tracked changes document that you will be able to see what exactly changed, but it will be the inclusion. Nothing was really changed other than the inclusion of this information that we're providing.
And you were going to print that out, right? That's a joke. Sorry.
We had us a little worried there, Debbie.
we are required to print one. Maybe we can let you read. We can let you come read that printed one, Debbie.
Sure, I have another question. Ron, next presentation, I know you're going to present on that. I'd like to see if you can take a few minutes to kind of talk about those projects that the public provided. So there was a number of meetings that were held, and I know you received a handful, maybe not that many as we would expect, but I'd like to, and I know you've talked to me a little bit about it, but I'd like if you can mention at the next meeting, talk about those projects, particularly if those communities where these individuals proposal, if they are endorsing or they're going to be sponsors. If you can just talk a little bit about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Steffi. Regional liaison update. Dave, do you have an update for us?
Well, I normally cheat. One of my colleagues out there is on Region 13 and he, he's out sick. But they got a meeting June 26th in Tilden. They're basically the same place we are, except for they already adopted their Task 12 stuff. So they're just I'd say they're one meeting ahead of us.
Gotcha. Thanks, Dave. And was Doris on? No, she's not on today. All right. Next item, public comments. Kendall, do we have any public comments?
No, sir. No one has signed up to speak.
All right. Date and potential agenda items for the next meeting is item 12. We are currently scheduled for June 27th at 2 p.m. Please notify Kendall ASAP as quick as you can if you are not able to make it. It will be hybrid, just like today. So even if you can't be here in person, please be online because we need to have a quorum so we can successfully pass this and get it up to the state.
And I will call you back on the 5th of July if you do not show up.
Ooh.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add that the consulting team will be providing beverages and drinks and food and something. Well, I'll get with Kendall. We want to say thank you for working with the planning group and also celebrate a big achievement for the final plan and actually surviving. And so we'll have snacks and all of that. So I don't know how much that's going to sway anybody, but come for.
It depends on what those beverages are, Mr. Consultant.
I'll have to let Kendall approve those.
Hey, I didn't say it. Kara beat me to it. No, but I appreciate that. But yeah, I can't stress enough, all snacks and whatever beverages there might be aside, we really have to have participation with a quorum. And frankly, having the full group here as close as we can, I think would be an important statement to, hey, there is major consensus, everybody, the group was here and approved this thing and got it to the state. And I think that's a big deal. So whether it's online or here, please, do your best to attend. Yeah, Debbie. Oh, I thought you were, sorry. So June 27th at 2 p.m. and adjourn. Is there any last items before we do a motion to adjourn? Somebody wants to bring up.
Are there any more items for this next agenda besides passing? Do we want to talk about a media event or anything else at this time?
Well, we'll have an agenda item for brain work.
We will have the adoption of the amendment. We will have the adoption of the amended plan. We will draw lots for the members with expiring terms. There will be an agenda item to request authorization to solicit for any vacancies that come up. And there'll be another agenda item just with a couple of statements to put on the record for the plan itself. So some administrative things, but is there anything specifically you were asking?
Did you want to talk about, some sort of, you said media event or probably press release or something like that? We can certainly do that. I don't know if we need an agenda item, or we can put it on there just for discussion.
We can discuss. I know that in terms of budget, I'm not sure how much room there is for hosting a media event or what that would look like. So that would just be a point to bring up right away.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I'm not, as I think about a media event at the position we're in a statewide level, while this is certainly a milestone for Region 12, we still don't have funding committed to any specific product or any specific project. nor has the Water Development Board been able to knit together the statewide plans. I think we might be a bit premature. I think we're moving in the right direction, but my fear is that we try to do some kind of a press release. It's going to create a lot of questions we can't answer and make us look a little silly.
I guess I would say there's a difference between a media event and a press release, because I do think it's important to let the public know that we successfully submitted it, or possibly when the state approves the final plan, maybe that would be a little bit better, because we will know what the legislature has done in terms of funding by that point. So maybe this is a good item that we should discuss it next month and folks can think about it. But yeah, I appreciate that we're not there yet in the big scheme from the state level either. So maybe there's something in between to acknowledge and put it on the wall.
I wasn't trying to be a wet blanket.
No, it's a fair point though. I appreciate, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves either. Any other items that people would like to talk about next month? All right, well, I thank you for participating today. Hope you have a great holiday weekend coming up. Please be safe. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.